there's anything that The Exorcist taught me, it's girls and crucifixes shouldn't be in beds together. Hello, and welcome to Franchise Frights Podcast. Hi, Mandy.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Oh, I'm Kam.
Oh, you are Kam.
I am Kam.
I forgot to say your name.
You did.
Sorry.
So, first off, we have to say Happy Halloween.
Woohoo!
This is our last episode that we're coming to you with before the special day.
Yay!
So, hopefully, a little Nightmare on Elm Street conversation gets you in the mood for the spooky day.
I imagine it will.
We wanted to shout out Molly Mack, who made our wonderful logo for us, and if you are interested in some quality artwork, you can find her at Aunt Molly's Magic on Instagram. And yes, this is our final episode of our intro week.
Yay!
We did it!
Woohoo!
It's 5 whole episodes.
That's a lot.
We did good.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. Are you ready for some exciting horror movie news?
Yeah, sure.
There's going to be a sequel to Smile.
Oh.
Yeah. It's going to come out sometime in 2024.
I was very disappointed with that movie.
Yeah, it was not good.
I thought it was going to be amazing.
Yeah. The previews looked great.
Previews were creepy.
Movie was not.
No.
No.
And then they had like those promotions where they had people like, I don't know if you call it a promotion, like a guerrilla advertising where they had people sitting like MLB stands.
Yeah.
And just smiling.
That was creepy.
That was super creepy.
Okay, so we are going to be discussing 1984's A Nightmare on Elm Street, a movie that I have seen probably over 100 times.
Really?
Yeah. It is definitely one of my top 3 favorite horror movies of all time.
Oh, I think I've seen it 5 times, maybe?
5 times? That's not enough times.
Definitely less than 10.
Okay, so a little bit of facts and figures action. Do you have some facts and figures for me?
What would you like to know?
Whatever you have written down.
I have that it was directed and written by Wes Craven, produced by Robert Shea. You do like music and stuff, don't you?
Yes.
Because I don't. You can say your music fact.
The music was by Charles Bernstein.
Is that it? Starring John Saxon, Ronnie Blakely, Heather Langenkamp, Amanda Weiss, Nick Corey, Johnny Depp, and Robert Englund. It was distributed by New Line Cinema, and it opened November 9th, 1984. It runs 91 minutes. That's kind of like a pretty average. Like, I feel like they're all like 91 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all, they try to keep horror, especially slashers, right in that 90-minute sweet spot.
Yeah. Their budget was $1.1 million, and in the box office, it got $57 million.
Yeah, so adjusted for today's money, the budget would have been $3.3 million, and the take would have been $168 million.
That's a pretty good profit.
Yeah, they did all right.
Yeah.
Let's see, did I have anything? Oh, you forgot one starring Lynn Shay.
Oh, she doesn't really...
Oh,
I have, when she appears, I make a big deal out of it, but I didn't put her in the starring.
See, I wrote her down in capital letters. Because she's Lynn Shay.
She is Lynn Shay.
Okay, so what were your initial impressions of this movie?
It's a super cheesy 80s horror flick. I know it stars Heather Langenkamp, but I just remember her from Just the 10 of Us.
You know, I don't think I ever saw an episode of Just the 10 of Us.
Really? It was a great show. It was one of Johnny Depp's first movies, if not his first.
It was his first.
Very first. I said it's definitely a popcorn movie. You can just shut your mind off and watch it.
Under my initial impressions, I just wrote one of my top 5 horror films of all time. This was actually I don't know if you want to say it was the second or the 4th VHS I ever bought. Because the first VHS purchase I ever made on my own was the Star Wars box set. So is that one? It's a box set.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was the second time
I'd say second.
This was the second time I ever purchased a VHS for myself. And I wore it out and had to buy another one.
Oh. How many times do you think you've purchased this movie?
Oh. 5?
Really?
Probably. Yeah. Because Blu-ray, DVD, 2 VHSs, and then I also had
Don't you have a box set too?
Yeah, I had a DVD box set. So yeah, it's been 5.
That's a lot.
I like it. Rotten Tomatoes got a 95% critic score and an 84% audience score. So
I have 56% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Did you look at the remake?
Maybe? No, I don't think so.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure. It's okay. I might be wrong.
Also, a IMDb score of 7.4 out of 10. So
That's not too bad.
no.
Especially for IMDb.
Yeah, and for a slasher movie.
Yeah.
So the Washington Post, a writer for them, said, for such a low-budget movie, it is extraordinarily polished. The script is consistently witty, the camera work is crisp and expressive, and the genre has built-in limitations, but Craven faces the challenge admirably. I agree with all of that.
I do too. He also said that the movie is bathed in perversely refreshing baby blue, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. I never really noticed that before.
There's a lot of blue.
There is.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
A lot.
Variety said that this was a highly imaginative horror film, but it fails to tie up thematic threads satisfyingly at the conclusion. Which I would agree with that too, because
Yes.
the ending of this movie
Is awful.
it's hot garbage.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that.
Yeah.
There's a reason why it was hot garbage.
Okay. I'm sure you have lots of insider information.
Oh, I do. So, you ready to jump into the plot?
I am.
All right. So, Nightmare on Elm Street opens with a man grunting and breathing raggedly.
There's a lot of heavy breathing.
Yeah, and he's kind of... He kind of sounds like Pee-wee dying in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Rest in peace, Paul Rubens.
A little bit, yeah.
And we see that he's assembling something with joints and knives, and we see what he's making, and it's a knifed glove.
Oh my goodness.
So right off the bat, we're getting scary. And did you wonder why he chose such a crappy glove? Like
Maybe that's all he had available to him.
it's got holes all over
Yeah.
it.
But he's in that, boiler industrial type room.
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't have access to a lot of things.
Okay, so then the title screen comes in, which I think the font is amazing.
It's pretty good.
Good score, too.
The two of them mixed together is quite creepy.
So now we see a young blonde woman, and she's looking scared. She's concerned. She's running down a concrete hall. There's steam leaking from the ceiling, and there's dripping water. And what does dripping water mean?
Scary.
Scary. Dripping water or flashing lights? Scary. We hear an ominous voice say, Tina. And then she sees a sheep, and it's scary. Because there's just a random sheep, and it's really loud.
It is loud, but sheep are loud.
Yeah. So she runs up through a catwalk, and there's lots of pipes and metal plates. And we get to see Freddy for the first time, and he's kind of peering around a pipe. And he looks creepy.
He is creepy.
He's a very ugly man. There's a lot of screeching, metal on metal sounds. And we're like, what's that all about? Tina continues on the catwalks, and Freddy passes by below her, laughing in a raspy laugh. And then we see the knife claw hand, that we saw being made in the first scene, and it tears through some old curtains. And then Freddy jumps out, and Tina runs away really oddly.
Yeah.
It's a slow run, and she looks like she's never run before.
Yeah.
Sorry if you hear my papers dropping to the floor. I don't have a good system for this. So Tina turns a blind corner into a dead end, and Freddy walks by. She screams, but he just keeps right on going. But I really liked what they did here. They undercut her scream with the bleating of a sheep.
Yeah, I didn't like the sheep noises.
It made it super creepy.
It's scary.
And I like how when they're in dream sequences, like, they have the surrealism of a dream, but it still, like, is ominous.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like when you actually have a nightmare and just, like, all of a sudden, like, your math teacher from 7th grade is in there. And you're like, where did that come from?
But it definitely, you can definitely feel when it's a dream.
Yeah. And there's special music for the dreams later on. So Tina has her back to a furnace, and it's spewing fire, and she's like, wait a minute, where'd that guy go? She steps forward, and Freddy pounces up behind her, and then Tina wakes up in her bed, and we find out, hey, that was just a dream.
Oh.
So then her mom comes in and points out 4 slashes on Tina's nightgown, and she's kind of bitchy.
She's not concerned.
No, but she is wearing a very nice flowered silk night robe.
Yeah.
Night robe? Is that? Night robe?
Just a robe?
Fighter of the day man.
I think it's just called a robe.
So then a creepy man walks in with a wife beater, and he's like, are you coming back to the sack or what?
He wants to know when she's coming back, and it's like, bro, she's literally been out of bed for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, if that.
Yeah. So then her mom's like, I gotta get back to banging creepy guy. So, Tina, you need to cut your fingernails, or you need to stop that kind of dreaming. One or the other.
Yeah. What's that about?
Yeah. I think I would be a little more concerned if my 15-year-old daughter woke up screaming.
And had slashes in her nightgown.
Yeah. I don't think I'd be like, oh, I'm going to go back to bed with Mr. Wife Beater.
No, because your fingernails don't cause slashes.
No. Okay, so Mom leaves the room with a shake of her head like, you damn kid, and Tina grabs her crucifix and just lays back down.
Because that's what I like to sleep with.
If there's anything that The Exorcist taught me, it's girls and crucifixes shouldn't be in beds together. So the next thing we see is kind of a surreal shot. You're like, oh, are we back in a dream? It's little girls in like communion dresses, and they're jumping rope and singing this 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. And you're like, oh, it must be a dream. But then the camera pans over, and no, it's not a dream.
It's not a dream. But they kind of filmed it. It's like, kind of hazy.
Yeah.
Is that the word I want to say? Like,
they look very ethereal.
yes.
They're very ghost-like. A car pulls up, and Tina is riding in the car with her friends, Nancy and Johnny Depp, whose name is Glenn, but I think we should just call him Johnny Depp.
I refer to him as Johnny and Glenn. It was confusing.
And Johnny Depp has a fucking rad car.
He does.
He's driving a Caddy. It's like just brilliant red. I love it. And Tina's telling him about her dream last night, and Nancy says, oh, that reminds me of that old jump rope song, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you.
Are they tied?
So now Tina's boyfriend comes in, and he's Rod, and he has a leather jacket.
Rod's tough.
Yeah. And he tells her that when he woke up, her name was written on his rod. And Tina fires back, and she says, there's 4 letters in my name, Rod. How can there be room on your joint for 4 letters?
Burn.
And then he gets really classy and says, up yours with a twirling lawnmower.
Yeah.
So
I like that she calls it a joint.
Yeah.
Who refers to like male genitalia as a joint?
Yeah.
They couldn't say like dick.
Or Johnson.
No.
Maybe in 1984 Johnson was a thing.
Wait, well, I'm sure it was, but...
So Nancy admits to Tina that she had a bad dream the night before too, and Glenn suggests to her that, hey, if you're having a bad dream, just tell yourself that's what it is and you'll wake up. It works for me. So every dream Glenn has is a lucid dream.
He's also really like holding Nancy's neck here. It's creepy.
You know, I didn't notice it on the watch, but now that you mention it, I can picture the scene.
Like they're standing, she's almost like in the crook of his like arm.
Yeah, but it looks like he's trying to put her in a headlock.
But yes, he has his like whole hand wrapped around her neck.
So Tina asks Glenn if he had a nightmare too, and he just runs off.
He doesn't want to answer the question.
No. To help calm her down, Nancy is like, oh yeah, Glenn and I will come over and hang out with you because your mom's going out of town. Glenn decides to call his mom, and he's like, yeah, I've got this cousin Barry who lives out by the airport, and it's okay with me to stay. It's okay for me to stay with him.
Uh-huh.
So he puts in a sound effects tape, and he's got it all queued up to a plane.
Mm-hmm. It goes well to start.
Yeah. He hits the play button, we hear the sound effect, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm out here at Barry's, it's noisy as usual. So then when the plane sound ends, why doesn't he just hit stop?
I don't know.
He just lets it continue playing and looks baffled, like,
Yes.
why is this contraption making gunfire noises?
Or maybe one of the two girls could have hit stop.
Yeah. But, you know, it's funny.
Yeah. But we go from an airplane noise to what sounds like a bad car wreck.
Yeah. And then a woman screaming, and then gunshots.
It doesn't sound good.
So Tina brings up her dream again, because she's obsessed with this dream.
I think I would be too.
And she says something about finger knives. And Nancy's like, hey, I had a dream about a guy with finger knives. And Tina's like, what did he look like? And she said, well, he was wearing a dirty red and green sweater. And then this gets Glenn's attention. And he's like, qua? Because I think Glenn had a dream about the same guy.
I think so.
And Nancy said that he liked to drag his fingernails along things and describes the screeching that we heard in the beginning. And Tina reveals to Nancy that they dreamt about the same thing. Glenn says it's impossible, even though you could see on his face, he's like, oh crap.
I also had the same dream.
Well, now they hear the screeching sound from outside the house. So they go to check it out. Glenn goes outside, and he's going to be tough in his sweater vest.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I'll punch out your ugly lights, whoever you are. And the next thing he does is start trying to call a dog.
No, he calls for the kitty first.
Oh, yeah. Kitty, kitty.
And
Chow,
then-
chow, chow.
What's chow, chow, chow?
Like a dog, like chow.
Like a chow dog? Like a chow chow?
Yeah. That's how I've always taken it.
I think he's just
Or
like,
maybe he was like, oh, kitty, come here. It's time to eat.
I don't know.
Like, time to chow
I was
down.
confused. I don't know what that means.
He was offering the cat some cat chow.
Maybe it's like a pss, 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 pss for a cat.
Maybe.
Instead you say chow, 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 chow for a dog.
Wait, why do we always make that sound at cats?
I don't know.
Everybody's like, pss, 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 pss. So the girls are clinging to Johnny Depp in his sweater vest, and I'm sorry, he's a scrawny dude.
Yeah.
He's not going to protect you.
No.
Go in the house, lock the doors.
Mm-hmm.
And then out of nowhere, someone comes and tackles Glenn from behind. And it's Rod.
Mm-hmm.
And he's very, ha ha ha, I got you.
He thinks it's funny.
And he has like a garden, what do you call that? A garden fork? A garden fork?
It's not a fork. I would say maybe like a claw.
Like a garden claw?
Like a garden claw.
And he was using that to make the screeching sounds. But how does he know about the screechy sounds?
I don't know.
So Rod's a tough guy, and he pulls a switchblade on Glenn for calling him a dickhead.
Mm-hmm. But he is a dickhead.
But it kind of seems like they're friends. Like,
I think Rod likes Glenn more than Glenn likes Rod.
yeah.
I think Glenn just puts up with him because he's dating Nancy.
So Nancy says they're having a sleepover date. That's a thing?
Yeah.
I never got to go to sleepover dates.
Well, she doesn't say that Glenn's staying there. It's just her and Tina having a sleepover date.
Oh.
Because remember, then she says that Glenn was just leaving.
Yeah, but he doesn't.
I know.
So Rod determines that Tina's mom is not home and decides it's bang time. Well, Tina doesn't want to be left alone with Rod. Tina makes bad decisions. Glenn tries to get some bang time, but Nancy shuts him down, and she's like, we're here for Tina now, not ourselves.
I was very confused by this.
It was a very strange delivery.
It was terrible delivery. But also, Tina's in there getting hers. Well, you've got the whole rest of the house to yourselves.
Well, yeah, but she needed to remain virginal.
Well,
She needs to be chaste.
they could have, like, at least gone to the couch and made out.
Yeah. Do you think killers still kill you if you do hand stuff? Like, I mean, they're 15, you know, this hand stuff happens.
Yeah. It's probably best that they just didn't.
Yeah. So Johnny Depp doesn't get his, but now he has...
Oh, no, this is another. Sorry. He awkwardly is holding her hand.
Yeah, up by her face.
She's like up, pushed against a tree.
Like
I think
it's like the support for the roof on the patio.
Okay, maybe that's what it is. But like he's holding her hand all the way up by her like
collarbone.
Yes.
It doesn't look comfy.
They're not a couple.
She was probably like, okay, if that's the move you're gonna pull, you're not getting any tonight.
Well, now we have our answer.
So Glenn, poor Glenn, he tried to get some, got shot down, and now he has to listen to Rod and Tina making lots and lots of sex noises. And here's my question. Do high schoolers really have that good of sex?
They fake it.
Oh.
But they're also in her mom's bed.
Yeah, that's creepy.
That's really weird.
So Tina and Rod have officially made up now, and Rod says, no more fights, no more nightmares for either one of us then. And then Tina's like, wait, you had a nightmare? And he gets all defensive, and he's like, hey, chicks aren't the only ones who can have nightmares, brah.
She also called him a jungle man.
Yes,
and said that he fixed Jane.
Jungle man fixed Jane.
Yeah.
And let's just try to keep in perspective here. She's 15 years old.
Yeah. And she's still in her mom's bed.
She is. So Nancy's sleeping in Tina's bed. We know that from the opening. Mm-hmm. And the crucifix just like pops off the wall onto her. And she's like, huh, that's weird. Crucifixes fall on me sometimes. And now the score gets intense.
Mm-hmm.
And
something's going to happen.
Yeah. We zoom in on the mom's bedroom window and we hear a pebble hit the glass, like the movie trope.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tina hears it and she tries to wake Rod up and he just grumbles and snores. So Tina goes to the window and then she hears her name whispered and more pebbles hit the window. But this time it's like hard enough to crack it.
Well, they're getting bigger.
Yeah.
They're
these aren't pebbles. These are rocks.
They're
now.
small rocks.
We cut back to Nancy and Tina's bed and we get the spandex wall scene.
Is it spandex?
Yeah, that's what they use for the effect.
I thought maybe it was some sort of latex. It just looks like a giant condom.
Yeah, it looks like Freddy is in a condom and he's trying to bust out of the condom.
But it is pretty creepy.
It is. It's very creepy.
Yeah.
Oh, Nancy deals with the spandex wall by hanging the crucifix back up on the wall and knocking on it.
Yeah.
So Tina decides to leave the house to investigate the creepy happenings.
Just go back to bed.
Yeah, and she's bottomless.
Just go back to bed.
Just walk around bottomless, investigating creepy noises. So she walks to the alley and she sees Freddy and he has super long arms. This scene's kind of cheesy.
It's so good.
We don't really get a good look at him yet, but the little look of his face that we get, we're like, man, that dude's creepy. He's drippy.
Yeah.
He looks drippy.
He's not attractive.
No. And Tina goes, please, God? And Freddy holds up his glove and he says, this is God. And then he starts chasing her like a madman. And he's giggling. He's like,
Him running after Tina might be one of my favorite scenes ever.
It looks like something that should be in the Leprechaun movies.
It does, because they have those long fake arms on him. And then he's just like, I don't even know, like waving them as he's trying to run.
Yeah.
It's comical.
So Tina gets back into her yard and Freddy pops out from behind a tree and tells her, watch this. And he slices off a couple fingers and green goo shoots out. And there's a really weird sound effect. It almost sounds like Native American, like, chanting.
Oh, I didn't catch that. I just said that Freddy's filled with antifreeze.
Yes, his blood looks very similar to antifreeze. Mm-hmm. So Tina tries to run back in the house, but Freddy gets to her. He tackles her and they wrestle around on the ground. And she reaches up and she rips his face off. And we're just seeing his skull and he starts laughing maniacally.
Yeah, that's a weird scene.
Yeah.
They could have cut that.
But it's very nightmarish.
Yeah.
So she pulls up the blankets and we're like, wait, she's outside. How are there blankets? Because she's asleep.
Mm-hmm.
So now she's back in bed and Rod wakes up to Tina screaming and thrashing around. And from his perspective, it looks like there's two people under the blankets. So he rips the blanket off, but there's nobody there.
Tina's all alone.
But right before he rips the blanket off, we see from Tina's perspective that Freddy is like straddling her and he has his claw right in her face.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like she's just thrashing around on the bed on her own to Rod. And she's screaming to Nancy and Rod for help. And then her shirt opens up and 4 slashes appear on her chest. And, ooh.
They're deep slashes.
Yeah. And they start bleeding. And then she's kind of whipped around. She knocks into Rod and he knocks into a lamp. And then she
hits Rod with her head.
Yeah. So she gets dragged up the wall and then across the ceiling, and she is just screaming bloody murder the whole time.
This is a really scary scene.
Yeah. I'm like, can you imagine seeing this when it first came out?
I can't imagine seeing this in 1984 because it's terrifying now.
Yeah. And she's just screaming. She's, Rod, Nancy. And so Nancy wakes up to the screams, and Tina gets flung down onto the bed and just sprays blood everywhere. A lot of blood.
Lots of blood.
So Nancy's trying to get into the room, and Rod screams, "Who did this? I'll kill you." And then Glenn comes out of nowhere and scares the shit out of Nancy. Mm-hmm. So Nancy and Glenn break into the room. They see the blood-soaked Tina draped over the side of the bed, and it appears that Rod's jumped out the window. So policemen are walking into their office now. Oh yeah, we cut to a different scene. We're in front of the police station now, and two police are walking into the office, and one's giving the obvious boss a rundown on what's happened with Tina Gray. Mm-hmm. And he says that something like a razor was the weapon, but nothing was found at the scene. So the lead cop man here seems very preoccupied as he walks in, and he asks the desk clerk, "Where is she?" And the walking cop tells the boss that Rod is the prime suspect because he's a musician type with arrests for drugs and brawling.
Oh, he's a bad boy.
That Rod, he's always out brawling. We find out that the boss cop is Nancy's dad, and the first thing he does is get all accusatory with Nancy and her mom right away.
Yes.
He walks in, he's like, "What the fuck were you doing there? Rawr."
Well, and it seems like these are her best friends, and he doesn't know them.
Yeah, I get the feeling he wasn't very involved.
He's not a very good dad. And then suddenly we're also in a very bad made-for-TV movie. The mom and dad's acting...
Oh yeah, it's horrible.
...is horrible.
And I don't get it because, like, they were, like, the two experienced actors that they brought in.
Yeah. And then, like, they brought Nancy down with them.
Yeah. Although Nancy redeems herself at the end of the scene, I think. So, Nancy's parents' names are Donald and Marge.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Did you have to look that up?
Oh, no.
They say them?
Yeah. Donald says, "Marge."
Oh.
And she's like, "Good evening to you too, Donald."
Ew. They don't like each other.
No, they don't. It's uncomfortable. Also, the dad has Heather Langenkamp's headshot framed on his desk.
Aww.
Do you think he paid for her to go get headshots?
Yeah.
So dad kind of yells at the mom, but poses it as a question to his obviously traumatized daughter. So, yeah, she just saw her best friend dead. Why not yell at her and make her feel bad that her mom and I are divorced? Mm-hmm. Mom says that Rod was crazy jealous and he and Tina had a fight. And Nancy's like, "Hey, it wasn't that serious." And then her mom's like, "Well, maybe you don't think murder is serious." Mm-hmm. What?
She just is jumping to conclusions.
So I think Heather Langenkamp acts her ass off here.
For real?
Yes.
No, it's terrible.
No,
that's probably the worst line she delivers in the whole movie.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about how can you say I don't take her that serious?
Okay, that's
not that part.
Okay.
No, but like when she clears her throat after that, and then, sorry if you hear our son and dog, they're upstairs. But when she kind of clears her throat, and she's like, "All I'm saying is that their fights weren't that serious."
Okay, I'm okay with that.
She, like, nailed that.
Yes.
And I thought it kind of brought the scene back from the brink.
Yeah, because how can you say I don't take her death seriously?
Oh, that was horrible.
Oh.
And it was really overexposed on the audio.
Yes.
So now Nancy's parents soften a little bit. So we cut over to Nancy's really nice house at 1428 Elm Street.
Mm-hmm. And it's the next morning.
Yes. And her mom's pouring some breakfast liquor and watching the news in her nice power suit with a brooch included. And she's watching their bougie kitchen TV. So the news says that Tina was 15. I would put her more at like 24. Mm-hmm. And then the news shows a picture of Tina in the body bag, a clear body bag. And she's being loaded onto a stretcher and her arm falls out of the unzipped body bag. I'm like...
Somebody's not doing their job.
Like, did they really show this crap on the news?
Probably not.
So Nancy sees the news and her mom's like, "Oh, I should probably turn that off real quick." And Nancy has to negotiate with her mom to go to school so that she doesn't go crazy. And her mom's like, "Hey, you didn't sleep last night." Mm-hmm. She's like, "Hey, I'll sleep in study hall."
Yeah.
So Nancy walks to school and she sees like a creepy agent man watching her.
Yeah, you can tell there's somebody tailing her.
Yeah. She's really struggling with her backpack and purse combo.
It's not an easy combo to carry.
Why not just put your purse stuff in your backpack?
That's what I did.
Yeah. So Rod jumps out of some bushes that she's walking by. And Nancy's wearing a great sweater vest now because she wanted to look like Glenn did the night before. Glenn's a trendsetter. Rod tells Nancy, hey, I didn't do it. And she's like, well, you were screaming like crazy. Mm-hmm. And he's like, don't look at me like I'm some fucking fruitcake.
Well, and he's trying to convince her that there was somebody else there.
Yes. When Rod's getting pissy, he says, I'm warning you. And then Daddy Cop comes out of nowhere, aiming a gun straight at Rod. And he's like, back away from her, son. So he decides to take off and run. Daddy Cop wants to shoot Rod, but Nancy jumps in the way. So the cops nab Rod while he's running down the street with no shoes on, which I think at that point I'd just be like, yeah, just take me. I don't want to run on pavement in bare feet anymore. No. The cops find his switchblade, and this whole time Rod is like screaming. He's like, I didn't do it, Nancy. I didn't kill her. Nancy's like, Daddy, you used me. And then he yells at her. Mm-hmm. And he's like, what are you doing going to school? Rawr. Yeah. And she starts walking away, and he's like chasing after her, like screaming at her.
Like she's been through some trauma. Maybe like be nice.
Yeah.
See how she's doing.
And be like, hey, I'm glad you're going to school. Like, keep up with your normal life, kid.
Yeah.
So now we cut to Nancy, and she's in class, and her teacher is
Lynn Shay.
Probably my favorite actress of all time.
She's awesome.
So the teacher is talking about some Shakespeare, mm-hmm. and she makes a point to talk about gravediggers and then touches Nancy on the shoulder like, hey, is this getting to you at all? Nancy's very sleepy. And then a guy in a super fancy button-down shirt gets up to read some Julius Caesar. He doesn't look happy about it, and he reads very monotone.
You think it's Julius Caesar?
Yeah.
I thought it was Hamlet.
No, they were talking about Hamlet, and then she says the same is true in Julius Caesar.
But what he reads is Hamlet.
In the most high and palmy state of Rome, the mighty air, the little Julius fowl.
Oh, I thought he read Hamlet.
I think it switches to Hamlet in The Nightmare.
Okay, maybe that's it.
Because he did
when he does the super creepy voice.
I could be bounded in a nutshell, were it not that I have bad dreams.
Yes.
I don't know much Shakespeare.
See, like, I'm pretty sure that's from Hamlet.
Is it?
Yeah, that's why I thought it was Hamlet.
So while he starts reading, we get the creepy dream music starting up. And Nancy looks to the door and she sees Tina standing outside the door in her body bag. And Tina's kind of pawing at the bag and calling her name. And then the reading boy's voice gets super creepy. Nancy follows Tina out in the hall because, that's what you do.
Well, yeah.
In a scene very similar to the news report, Tina's arm flops out of the body bag as she's getting dragged down the hall by nothing and leaving a really gross blood trail. A
very thick blood trail.
Uh-huh. Did you know what they used for blood in that scene?
I'm going to say it's Hershey syrup.
It was.
Okay.
They had a golf cart and a large sponge soaked in Hershey's syrup.
Oh.
And they drove the golf cart while somebody sponged Hershey syrup onto the floor.
I wrote Hershey syrup.
Nancy decides to follow the blood trail and jogs straight into a pigtailed hall monitor wearing a Freddy sweater. And one of the best lines in the movie, a hall monitor goes, "Where's your pass?" And Nancy looks at her and goes, "Screw your pass." So Nancy gets away from the hall monitor, and then we hear Freddy's voice coming from the hall monitor, and she says, "Hey, Nancy, no running in the hallway." And we cut back to her, and she's wearing Freddy's glove.
Ooh.
And she looks very creepy, and that lady goes to horror cons and signs that picture. So Nancy follows the blood trail down the steps where we see a "No Students Allowed" sign. She ignores it. We hear water dripping, and there's fire, so shit's gonna get real here. Mm-hmm. And she walks right by a payphone, and I got really happy about the payphone.
I didn't notice the payphone.
Oh, see, I did. I wrote it in all caps.
Oh, yeah.
With an exclamation point. So Nancy parts some curtains like we saw in the opening scene in Tina's dream, and she's in the boiler room. And this boiler room seems a little too large to be sitting under a school. So, dream.
Mm-hmm.
So we hear Freddy breathing again. We see him through some pipes. He's still creepy. He's still ugly. And the blood trail kind of goes behind a boiler, and Nancy's calling out for Tina, and Freddy steps out, and he is doing the classic Freddy stance. I love it. His glove arms kind of like dropped down to one side, and his head's kind of cocked, and the fedora, and he looks amazing.
He looks good.
And Nancy asks, "Who are you?" And Freddy responds by cutting his chest open and letting green goop and maggots fall out. So I have a question. Why isn't his chest burned?
Because his sweater protects him.
Oh, he has like a Kevlar sweater? Does Kevlar protect you from fire?
I don't know. It's a fireproof sweater. It's non-flammable.
Oh, it's like flame retardant, like the Halloween costumes.
Yeah, or pajamas for little kids.
Yes, because little kids always be lighting fires in their sleep.
They spontaneously combust
They do.
all the time.
So Freddy giggles and chases her back into the curtains, but when she parts the curtains, there's just a wall behind him now, so we're deep in dream world. Freddy's laughing and introduces his glove right into Nancy's field of vision. He scrapes his knives on the railing right in front of her.
Yeah, I don't like that.
He's toying with her, and she is terrified. And she screams, "It's only a dream," and he replies very creepily with, "Come to Freddy," and then flicks his tongue at her a bunch of times, which was not scripted.
Oh, that's just Robert Englund doing Robert Englund?
Yep.
Ooh.
So Nancy looks over and sees a steam pipe, burns her arm on it to wake herself up, and she wakes up and she is freaking out in the middle of class.
Yeah.
And Lin Shay offers to call her mom for her, and she's like, "No, I'm just going to go home. It's fine. I'll walk straight home." And the teacher says, "You're going to need a hall pass." Nancy leaves without her hall pass, so I think she told the teacher, "Screw your pass."
I think so.
Nancy's outside the school now, and she's still struggling with that purse and backpack. And we discover that she has a burn on her arm from where she burned it in the dream.
She's also really badly fake crying. She's not good at it.
No. We kind of, I know they kind of hammered it home with Tina, but we're like, wait, these dreams have real world consequences. Now Nancy goes to visit Rod. The cops have given him a shirt, which was nice. And I found out an interesting fact in this scene. Nick Corey was actually snorting heroin in the bathroom right before the scene. And Heather Langenkamp was like, wow, he was acting his ass off. Like, he had tears in his eyes. He looked like he hadn't slept in a couple of days. Like, he was doing great. No, he was just on H. So Rod says that someone was under the covers with him, and Nancy's very incredulous. And she's starting to look rough, too. She's getting some dark circles.
Well, she hasn't slept.
Rod didn't get a look at the assailant, and he said that someone cut her while he watched. And Nancy's like, if you couldn't see him, then how do you know somebody else was there? And Rod screams at her, and he's like, hey, you know what? I saw it. It was like there were 4 razors cutting her at the same time. But
4?
invisible ones.
Ooh.
And now Rod gets kind of sad, and he's very remorseful. And I believe him. He didn't do it.
He didn't do it.
Because I saw that he didn't do it. But he reveals that the night before the murder, he had a nightmare about a man with knives for fingers.
Oh, he's dreaming about Freddy, too.
Everybody's dreaming about Fred. And Nancy's like, okay, yeah, I know you didn't do it. I'm going to leave now. Now we cut to Nancy. She's back at home. She is luxuriating in the tub with her bubble bath and her inflatable pillow behind her head.
It's a seashell.
It's gorgeous.
It's nice.
Baby blue.
See?
Yeah, she's into the self-care. Well, she falls asleep in the tub a little bit, and the glove comes right up from between her legs.
This shot, I don't like this shot.
Creep you out?
Well, like, as a woman, it's so vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like, it's just uncomfortable.
Well, and it also feels degrading.
Somewhat, yeah.
It's like degrading to watch.
It's just feels intimate and...
Well, and you get in a bath to get clean, and then this very dirty thing is going to happen to you. It's a very uncomfortable scene. So Mom starts knocking on the door, and she's like, hey, don't fall asleep in there, you'll drown. But it wakes Nancy up, so that's good. And Nancy says, oh, for Pete's sake. And then her mom's like, hey, I warmed up some milk for you. And Nancy's like, gross.
Because that is gross.
It is. So Nancy falls asleep again. And, that's what you get for taking a bath. Stick to showers, kid. You're just sitting in your own filth, and now you're going to die. She gets grabbed from below and dragged into the abyss of a tub.
Yeah, it's definitely deeper than a tub.
We see some stunt woman's boobies. And then Nancy surfaces, and she's screaming for her mom, and she's banging on the side of the tub, and she gets dragged back under. And it's stressful.
She's fighting.
Like, this scene stresses me out. Like, no matter how many times I've seen this movie, I'm like, God, I hate baths. No, I don't want you guys.
Doesn't bother me that much.
I don't want you guys to think I smell bad. I shower every day.
Yeah, you just don't.
I don't like sitting in Kam soup.
Mm-hmm. Unless it's a hot tub.
Oh, that's good soup. So Mom springs into action, and she has a hanger, and she's using it to unlock the door. Nancy gets out of the tub, and she's like, it's okay, I just slipped getting out of the tub. That's why I was screaming so much. And her mom puts her robe on her, and she's being very motherly.
It's weird how her mom puts her robe on her.
Yeah.
And then, like, takes the towel from her.
And everything's blue.
Mm-hmm.
So Nancy locks the door again, because that worked out well last time.
Well, she's not going to fall asleep this time.
Well, yeah, because she found a pill bottle, and what's on it?
Stay awake! Fast acting!
Super duper caffeine meth. Nancy's trying to stay awake with her little tiny black and white TV playing some Evil Dead.
She's in her room now.
Oh, yeah, she is in her room now.
You're really bad at, like, transitioning today.
Yeah. I'm not good at podcasting. She does have some sweet PJs with some roses on them, though. Mm-hmm. I wrote a little note here. I really like that her room shows that she's in that phase between, like, being a kid
and being a teen.
She's got, like, some posters on the walls, but she also has, like, a hand puppet.
Yeah.
That you can tell, like, she made at summer camp.
They did that really well with Glenn's room, too.
Yeah. I really like the attention that they put into the sets here. Because you're like, oh, yeah, this is a 15-year-old. Like,
yeah, they're not quite an adult, but they're not a child, and...
I'm not a girl. But she's not yet a woman.
It's true.
There's a Britney for everything. So she's having a hard time staying awake. She's like, I'm going to open the window, get some fresh air. But Glenn's there.
Oh my gosh.
And he's standing on the rose trellis, and he sneaks in through her window, which is kind of a trope in Wes Craven movies. Mm-hmm. So Glenn lays down on her bed, and she's like, hey, get off my bed. You're not getting any tonight. And he looks defeated. Glenn is always shooting his shot.
I know, he's trying. But he's a 15-year-old boy. What do you expect?
Yeah. Well, and then he looks at her. He's like, well, she shot me down, so I'm going to make fun of her. He's like, so I heard you freaked out in English class today. And Nancy admits that she hasn't slept yet, and Glenn notices the burn on her arm. He's like, hey, what happened to your arm? And she's like, I burned it in English class. And he looks at her like she's absolutely insane. So Nancy asks Glenn if he had any weird dreams, and he says, no, slept like a rock. She asks if he thinks that people can dream about what's going to happen, and he says no. And you can tell he's like, I know where this is going. Mm-hmm. And she asks if he believes in the boogeyman, and he kind of puts his foot down. He's like, no, Rod killed Tina, you know it. So Nancy has an idea. She wants Glenn to watch her while she goes to sleep and goes and looks for somebody. Mm-hmm. And all he has to do is stand guard. Just stay awake.
Just stay awake and watch her sleep.
Yeah. Nancy turns out the light, and Glenn once again tries to shoot his shot, and he's like, hey, it's dark in here. And she's like, no, we're not doing that, Glenn. If you're keeping score at home, that is Nancy 3, Glenn 0. She's definitely in the dream world. Mm-hmm. Things are foggy, kind of soft lens on the camera. The music's getting kind of creepy. She leaves her house, and she's walking in her pajamas down the street. That's an Iowa. Pajamas.
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 That just makes me feel pretentious.
Mm-hmm. It's like aunt.
Like aunt. I'm trying so hard to say it, though. So this scene's very foggy and moody. Nancy asks if Glenn's watching, and he pops out from behind some bushes, and he's like, yeah, I am, so.
But I was confused by this.
Yeah, I would be like, wait, if you're here, that means...
You're sleeping.
Yeah. So she's walking through these alleys, and there's creepy garages and broken windows, and she looks through one of the broken windows, and it leads straight to the police station.
Well, that's fortuitous.
Fortuitous.
That's the word I was looking for.
Words suck. So Nancy's like, yeah, this is where I wanted to go. I wanted to go to the police station and look in on Rod. So Rod's sleeping, but Nancy sees Freddie come through the door. So Nancy starts freaking out, and she's calling for Glenn. She's like, hey, Glenn, can you help me out here? Freddy walks straight through the bars, just like phases right through him like he's Kitty Pryde from the X-Men.
He's a ghost.
Yeah. And he kind of smiles up at her. He's like, yeah, look what I'm going to do. I'm going to kill your friend. Mm-hmm. So Nancy is desperately trying to wake Rod up, and Freddy just laughs at her and grabs the sheet. Rod wakes up now, and he kind of looks around like, hey, what's going on? But then Nancy hears the ghostly voice of Tina calling from behind her. She turns around, and Tina's still chilling in her body bag. But now it's just kind of like a shawl around her shoulders.
Yeah. It's opened up on top.
And a bug crawls out of her mouth. And it's a big bug.
It's like a big old, like
millipede.
And, oh, no.
And it makes a squeaky sound. It's like...
Yeah, I don't like it. And then there's gooey, poopy snakes all around her feet.
And they're making a bubbling sound.
What are those?
They're snakes. They're poopy snakes.
That's what they look like.
You know, like in The Goods, when you die, the poop leaves your butt. So Nancy is freaked out by this, because who wouldn't be? She starts screaming for Glenn again, but she only gets Freddy. So Freddy's chasing her, and she's not happy about it. She's throwing trash cans at him, and she's running really awkwardly. Mm-hmm. They should have had like a run trainer for this movie.
Nah, it's more authentic.
People run weird.
I run weird.
Nancy gets back to her house, and she starts running up the stairs, and then, because it's a nightmare, the stairs are just like swallowing her feet up in like this quicksandy, goopy mess.
Like they're made of oatmeal.
Yeah. It was actually Bisquick.
Oh.
They mixed up Bisquick and cut pieces of carpet, like, you know, like just like the little fibers of carpet, and sprinkled it on top.
Ooh.
Not a great special effect because you can see all of the pots that she's supposed to step in.
Yeah.
But it's very effective. Mm-hmm. So she's stuck in the Bisquick stairs, and Freddy breaks the front window on the door, and he sticks his head and his arm in, and he's wearing a Tina mask, and he's calling out to her in the Tina voice. Nancy freaks out, but she gets out of the Bisquick steps, and she runs upstairs, shuts and locks the door, and we see Glenn. He's asleep.
That's why he's not getting any.
Yeah, he's not dependable.
No, Glenn's a fuck up.
So Nancy turns to her mirror, and she's like, oh, what did Glenn tell me to do? And she starts screaming, this is just a dream, he isn't real. And she's saying it into the mirror. And then Freddy busts through the mirror and the door and tackles her onto the bed. And they kind of wrestle around, they fall on the floor. Freddy's going for the kill shot. Mm-hmm. And Nancy breaks from him for a second and shields herself with a pillow, and Freddy slashes at it very slowly, like, ha-ha, pillow! But
it's fun because then there's like feathers everywhere.
So the feathers start flying, and then the alarm clock goes off next to Nancy's head because Glenn was like, I'm going to be a piece of shit, but I'm going to set the alarm clock.
Smart thinking, Glenn.
So, of course, Nancy has to admonish Glenn for being a dick and falling asleep. And then, you know, because she was screaming, Mom comes in. Glenn jumps out the window, and Nancy tells her silky pajama and robed mom that she's just going back to sleep after a bad dream. And the mom leaves. Nancy calls for Glenn. She looks towards the window, and what do we see? A feather drifting out the window.
Ooh.
Something came back.
Mm-hmm.
So she was like, oh my gosh, that was real.
Yeah.
So we cut to Nancy and Glenn, and they're running up the front steps to the police station, and they ask the Nightman, Garcia, if they can go see Rod. Now we cut back to Rod, and we see the sheet is getting tied into a nice penis shape, and it's snaking around his neck, and Freddy's laughing about it. He's like, look, I made a blanket wiener. Oh. Beagles have to flop their ears a lot. So Daddy Cop's at the station, and he doesn't like unsolved murders that his daughter's mixed up in. And he's still being a dick.
He's just a dick.
And he looks at her, he's like, what are you doing here? At this hour, you should be home in bed.
I refer to him as Dickhead Dad here.
Yeah.
Because at this point, that's what he is.
Nancy is like, Dad, I just want to go check on Rod, not Rob.
Rod.
Nancy finally convinces her dad. We cut back to Rod, and the penis noose is all the way around his neck now, and it drags him up out. The sheet is going out the window through the bars. Cadre of people bust through the door just in time to see Rod's neck break from the penis sheet hanging. Mm-hmm. And
there's no saving him.
No. And for some reason, he already looked dead. Mm-hmm. So they pull him down, and he looks like he's been dead for a few hours.
He has. They pull him down and they put him on Nancy's lap,
Yeah.
which I thought was really fucking weird.
So that she can cradle his head.
Like, they weren't trying to, like, resuscitate him or doing anything. They were like, here, let's just put his head in her lap.
Well, I mean, they heard that neck break.
Well, yeah.
We've all seen Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. There's no coming back from it. So now we cut to Rod's funeral, and the priest pretty much just, like, looks his parents dead in the eyes and is like, your son was a fucking murderer. Hopefully God forgives him. Mm-hmm. And the dad looks like an angry, aging mob boss. And the mob boss shoots Daddy Cop a mean look.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how, but you caused this. He died in your jail. Nancy tells Daddy Cop before...
Why does Nancy and her family get to sit down?
Because she was friends with the girl that Rod might have murdered.
Okay.
That's always how it works. The best friend of...
I always like that in movies where they show funerals and it's like people that like aren't related or have no connection
Yeah.
to the like
They're
dead.
sitting front row.
Yeah.
Nancy tells her dad before she gets in the car at the funeral that the killer's still on the loose. And Nancy describes Freddy to Daddy Cop. And the mom and dad are like, whoa, we know who that is.
There's a knowing look between them.
They look at each other like, but that can't be. So dad is like, hey, you know what? Maybe just keep her at home till she recovers from the shock of this thing. And the mom's like, I got another idea. I'm going to get her some help. And they pull away in a sweet maroon Volvo wagon. Mm-hmm. So now we cut to the Katya Institute for Study of Sleep Disorders.
That's not the help I thought she was going to get her.
No. I thought she was probably just going to give her some vodka.
Here's some vodka and some Valium.
Nancy's asking the doctor inside the sleep study center to give her a pill to keep her from dreaming. That will become important in later installments of the franchise.
Oh, he tells her you can't, though.
Yeah, because you have to dream, or you go. And then he makes the crazy sign.
I don't think it's true.
I don't think so. So Nancy's hooked up to some scanning equipment, and she begs her mom, like, please don't do this. And you can tell she's terrified. And the mom's like, hey, just shut up and go to sleep.
Yeah.
The nurse is in typical nurse garb. The doctor's wearing a sweet lab coat. And they lower the bed down. There's no room darkening shade.
Nope, it's the middle of the day.
Yep. And Nancy's just flat on her back in a hospital bed, hooked up to wires.
Well, she also hasn't slept for
That's true.
quite a while.
And they're like, here, just go to sleep, laying flat on your back in a bright room. But Nancy does fall asleep, and the doctor is kind of getting some information from mom, and he's looking over the EEGs, like, hey, everything's looking good. She's asleep now. And mom's like, oh, good, she's sleeping. I can have a smoke. And she's just smoking in a doctor's office.
It was the 80s.
Yeah. So mom asked the doctor, what are dreams? And he says, well, we don't know. It's incredible body hocus pocus. It's crazy. Here we are in a sleep disorder center, and I have no clue what dreams are.
No, I have a doctorate, and I still don't know what dreams are.
So the doctor's monitoring her sleep with a seismograph, just in case there's an earthquake in her brain. They have a fancy camera set up on her face, and the computer screen tells the doctor that she's having a good little dream. Mm-hmm. But then we hear knife sounds, knives scraping on metal things.
It's not a good dream.
It's not a good dream. And Nancy starts kind of struggling in her sleep, and they're watching her through a two-way mirror, and they're like, this isn't good. Well, then the numbers on the doctor's computer screen just go off the charts, and he's like, yeah, this shouldn't be happening. And then it appears that Nancy's being throttled by somebody. It doesn't look like fun.
It doesn't.
So they run in, they wake Nancy up, and boom, her hair has a huge gray streak in it now.
It's pretty cool.
It is. Looks kind of punk.
Yeah, she looks punk now.
They immediately want to dose her up with some sleeping drugs, despite what they just saw.
Yeah. Well, why would that be
And
your solution?
Yeah, Nancy's like, no, let's not do that. And she pushes the nurse away, and everybody looks at her arm, and there are slash marks.
How did she get those?
Yeah, she was just laying in a bed. And then Nancy is like, wait, what's this? And she pulls something out from under the blanket, and it's Freddy's hat.
How did she do that?
I don't know. And her mom's like, well, where'd you get that? And she's like, I grabbed it off his head. So that scene ends, and we're back in Nancy's house now. Mom's on the phone with Daddy Cop, and she says that Nancy had the hat, and she doesn't even know how she got it. Well, She told you how she got it.
But I don't think she would believe her.
No.
I mean, she doesn't believe that Freddy's trying to kill her in her dreams, so...
No, but, if they know who Freddy is, and they found a hat with the name Fred Krueger stitched into it, and she's like, look, he slashed me.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe I'd put 2 and 2 together and get 4, not 187.
Yeah.
187, murder. So Nancy comes in, and Mom hangs up the phone real quick. Mom's in her PJs, and she's drinking, and she looks kind of rough. And then we see that she stashes something in a drawer. Nancy gets some coffee, and her mom's like, no more coffee, go to sleep. And Nancy asks if Daddy Cop is going to have the hat analyzed. And Mom's like, no, I threw it away. And she goes and stands in front of a drawer. Like, Nancy just saw you shut something in that drawer.
She's definitely not going to look there the minute you're out of the room.
Nancy explains that Freddy's after them in their dreams, and her mom says, that's not reality. Nancy's like, no, look, it is. You can touch the hat. It's real, and it has his name in it. Do you know who this is? And her mom's like, oh, don't worry about it. No. The mom urges her to sleep, despite what she just saw in the dream clinic. Nancy kind of digs at her mom for drinking. She's like, maybe I should just grab that bottle and veg out with you.
It's not a bad idea.
And then her mom slaps the hell out of her.
She does.
And Mom feels bad. You can tell she feels bad as soon as she hits her. Mom tells her, you know what? Freddy can't come after you because he's dead. And Nancy's getting all pissed now. She's like, you are acting like Freddy's something I made up and you knew who he was this whole time?
It's kind of a dick move.
Yeah, I'd be pissed. Mom's like, you just need to go to sleep. And then Nancy grabs the nice frosted bottle of liquor and slams it to the floor. And it breaks. And she's like, screw sleep. And then she tosses the hat at her mom. And it was a very teenage scene.
It was.
She's very like, yeah, keep that hat too, Mom.
That's what 15-year-olds do.
And then Mom says, it's just a nightmare. And Nancy says, that's enough.
What? The mom is just insisting on this.
Yeah. Maybe start believing your kid a little bit.
Maybe.
A little.
What? She has all the information, and she shouldn't.
Yeah, she knows who Freddy is. She had his hat. She has slashes on her arms. 2 kids have been murdered in their sleep in the last 2 days.
There's something going on.
So Nancy's hanging out with Glenn. They're on a nice little bridge, and there's ducks, and it's very sunny. Mm-hmm. Nice palm trees behind them. Glenn explains the Balinese way of dreaming. Dream skills. He says they get all their art and literature from dreams because they turn their negative dreams into something useful. Nancy says, well, what if they create a monster in their dreams? And Glenn says, they turn their back on it, they take away its energy, and it disappears. Well, we see that Nancy's carrying a book around like a big nerd. And she's reading...
but it's a cool book.
It is. What's the book?
It's a booby trap book.
Booby traps and improvised anti-personnel devices. Because I'm into survival.
Yeah.
And Nancy's starting to look crazy.
She still hasn't slept.
She still hasn't slept. Her hair's wild.
Yeah.
And
sleep deprivation will make you...
She's reading alt-right books.
It'll make you a little kooky.
Nancy comes home now from her little walkabout date with Glenn.
And her mom's been kooky now, too.
Yeah. Her mom called some security company and had bars put on all the windows.
And doors.
Yeah. And she confronts her mom about the bars. She's like, what's up with the bars? And her mom lights a cigarette very dramatically. And Ronnie Blakely's doing a good job of acting drunk here.
Yeah.
And she's like, come out of the cellar with me.
I wouldn't go to the cellar with my mom at that point.
No.
She's drunk.
She just barred up the house.
Yeah. Now go to the cellar. I'd be scared she was going to lock me down there.
Yeah. So they go down to the basement, and we get to see that there is a nice dogs playing poker tapestry on the wall.
Those are the best.
And Mom kind of comes clean. And she gives the whole backstory on Freddy while they're kind of kneeling down in front of the furnace. She tells her that Freddy was a murderer who killed 20 kids in the neighborhood. And she pulls out this bundle from the furnace. And it's wrapped up in a rag. And she explains that there was a high-profile trial. The judge and lawyers got famous, but somebody didn't sign the search warrant in the right place, and Freddy was freed. Just like that. Mom admits that the parents didn't enjoy this, and they decided to track Freddy down to a boiler room where he killed all those kids, and they burned him alive. And Mom says, Freddy can't get you, Nancy, because Mommy killed him. And then she pulls out the glove. And she's like, look, I even took his knives.
I have lots of questions.
I do too. Why would you take the knives?
Not even about that. Okay, so how long ago did this happen that they killed Freddy?
I don't know, a few minutes ago. It's only a 90-minute movie,
and
man.
how do the teenagers not know anything about their parents setting Freddy on fire?
Well, it's not the kind of thing you discuss around the Easter table.
Oh. I just feel like you can't keep something like that quiet. And
Well, I mean, if the
20 children in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Not the city, not the state, the neighborhood.
Yeah, and that none of the kids knew about it.
That would be like if all of the kids in our town were killed.
Yes. And nobody knew
And nobody knows about it.
Yeah, but, I mean, if the chief of police is in on killing the guy,
Yeah.
this goes all the way to the top. So, now we cut to Glenn's house, and he's watching TV, listening to some tunes.
Wearing some sweatpants and a crop top shirt.
Beautiful crop top shirt. The phone rings, and I just want to say right here, I want Glenn to die. He's wearing shoes in his bed.
Ew, I didn't notice that.
He has shoes on, and he's in bed.
I get the heebie-jeebies when people are wearing shoes in their house.
I get the heebie-jeebies when people are, like, not comfortable enough.
I know. Later, I have lots of thoughts about Glenn's mom.
So, Nancy's on the phone. Glenn is wearing his crop top, and he comes to the window so she can see him, because he sounds a million miles away.
I know, but it's so nice that they get to see each other and talk.
It is. And now Glenn, he's like, so it looks like your mom went ape at the security store. And this is why Glenn doesn't get laid. Mm-hmm. But he is concerned. He asked Nancy if she slept yet, and she's like, nope. It's coming up on 7 days, but it's okay. I checked Guinness. The record's 11. I can do this. Nancy knows who the killer is, and she says that if Freddy gets her, then Glenn's next. And he's like, why would anybody want to kill me? Because you're wearing fucking shoes on your bed.
Yeah.
Nancy's like, hey, I want you to help me. I'm going to bring Freddy out of my dream, and I want you to hit him in the head with a baseball bat when I do it.
I want you to just whack him.
And Glenn's like, okay, you're crazy, but I love you, so let's do this. Mm-hmm. So they make a midnight date, and she's like, yeah, bring a bat over at midnight, and we'll get this done.
But they tore down the trellis. How is he going to get in?
Oh, they'll figure out a way.
Oh.
Mom's drunk.
Oh, that's true.
I love Johnny Depp's line here. He hangs up the phone, and he's obviously like, whoa, my girlfriend is batshit crazy. And he goes, man, midnight, baseball bats and boogeymen. Beautiful. Nancy's starting to fall asleep sitting at her desk, but she has some cold coffee and some caffeine pills. Also, I was thinking, can you imagine what all that caffeine is doing to her digestive tract?
She's 15. She doesn't have to worry about things like that.
I would just be one stomach cramp.
Oh, yeah.
My name would turn into stomach cramp. Mm-hmm. So Glenn's mom comes in and checks on him. He's in his bed, and he's sleeping with his headphones on and his TV balanced on his wiener. And she's like, how can you listen to your TV and your records at the same time? And he's like, Mom, I wasn't listening to the TV. I was just watching it because Miss Nude America's going to be on.
I thought this was a really cute moment. Mm-hmm. Like, it felt genuine.
And she's like, well, how are you going to hear what she's going to say? And he says, who cares what she says?
It just felt like banter between mom and son.
Yeah. And then she tells him, you get some sleep, smart guy.
She tells him it's almost midnight. Okay.
It's almost midnight.
She's still wearing slacks, a button-up shirt, a sweater over the button-up shirt.
And a brooch.
Yes. And she has earrings.
Yes. Full face of makeup.
No. At midnight?
In your own home.
I'm wearing sweatpants.
Yes. Like the second I get in the door.
It's almost 7 o'clock now and I'm wearing sweatpants.
I got off work at 3:30. I got home at like 3:48 and I showered and I was in my comfies.
Yeah.
These people are insane.
Yeah. The 80s were a different time.
They were. So, while this is going on, Nancy's mom is putting her to bed across the street, and she steals all of her coffee mugs and the coffee pot that was sitting on the TV.
And her pills.
And her pills. And Mom seems loaded.
She is.
Yeah. So she leaves the room and we find out, dun da da da, Nancy has a hidden Mr. Coffee. So she pulls it out, and now she's changing into her battle attire, which is a button-down shirt. And Glenn's dad's standing out on the front porch drinking beer and staring at Nancy's house, and he doesn't like that Nancy lunatic. So it's 10 minutes to midnight, and Nancy checks on her mom, who's drinking liquor out of her hidden stash in the linen closet. Nancy calls Glenn, but he's asleep and has his headphones on, so he can't hear. Well, Mom answers the phone, and she's like, oh my god, it's the crazy girl from across the street. And the dad's a dick. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you just gotta be firm with these kids. And he's fully dressed, too. Mm-hmm. Still wearing his gold chain around his neck and everything.
I doubt he takes that off.
Well, that's true. So, then he takes the phone off the hook. Because
first he hangs up on her.
Yeah, hangs up on her. And then takes the phone off the hook. Okay, if there are all these murders happening, and your kid is in the friend group with the murdered kids, maybe start listening to the kids.
No, they're 15. They don't know anything.
These boomers are just, they're getting to me. So Nancy's frantic that Glenn's going to fall asleep after she gets a busy signal when she calls back. Her phone rings. She answers it and hears the screeching sounds of metal on metal. She rips the cord out of the wall and then nicely wraps the cord around the phone and places it on her bed. So she's getting ready to walk out of the room, and the phone starts ringing, but it's not plugged into the wall. Dun da da da.
How is it doing that?
Magic. Freddy magic. So she picks up the phone.
I don't think I'd answer.
I wouldn't either. If an unplugged phone is ringing and creepy shit's been happening to me, I'm leaving the phone to ring.
I'd probably just smash it.
So she picks up the phone and Freddy's like, hey, guess what? I'm your boyfriend now. And then we get the tongue-a-phone.
Ooh.
The bottom part of the phone turns into like the lower part of Freddy's face.
Yeah.
And, Jet's barking upstairs. And he's licking up on her mouth. So she shrieks and she stomps the phone to bits. Nancy tries to leave the house, but her drunk mom has locked the door. And her mom is real smashed now. Mm-hmm. And she's laying on the couch and she's like, I don't even have the key. Then her mom's like, you are going to get some sleep tonight if it kills me. All her mom cares about is sleep.
Well, yeah. She's a growing girl.
Yeah. So we cut to Glenn now, and he's sleeping. The TV's still balanced on his junk.
That doesn't look comfortable.
And he's watching station KRGR.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
And it signs off at midnight like they used to do. Mm-hmm. And
with the national anthem.
Yes. Like at the beginning of Poltergeist. Mm-hmm. So Freddy's glove comes up through the bed and it drags Glenn into a bed hole and he's screaming, Mama.
Aww.
He's like, Mama! Mama! He didn't yell for his dad because his dad's a dick. So Glenn gets pulled into the bed and a blood geyser shoots out of the bed.
It's pretty gross.
And the mom opens the door and she shrieks. And special effects here, I'm sure they looked great at the time. But you can tell that this was just an upside down room.
Yeah.
Like the lamp and everything is like tilted in a certain direction
mm-hmm.
and the blood's all streaming a certain way. But I mean, at the time, I bet this was a fantastic effect. So the paramedics show up and the cops tell them, you don't need a stretcher up there, you need a mop. Ew.
That's so cruel and insensitive.
Daddy Cop shows up and gets the lowdown from his deputy guy again. Is it a deputy? Deputy police chief? I know they're deputy sheriffs.
Yeah. Well, I just call them beat cops.
Beat cops?
He's a beat cop.
Inside the house, Daddy shows up, gets the lowdown from the deputy guy, and he waves to Nancy across the street, and she looks heartbroken. Inside the house, there's blood dripping from the ceiling. Glenn's dad sees it, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go throw up. Nancy calls Glenn's house to talk to her dad, and she's
so somebody must have put the phone back on the hook.
Well, the cops had to.
Oh, I'm guessing the parents called 911, though.
This is base camp now. Dad confirms, yeah, apparently he's dead. Nancy wants Daddy Cop to come arrest Freddy when she gets him. Arrest him? Okay, so you're dealing with a supernatural entity that's after you in your dreams, and you're like, hey, Dad, can you arrest this guy?
What else are you going to say at that point, though?
Kill the shit out of him? You've already done it once, Dad.
That's true.
So Nancy makes a plan with her dad to come to the house, and this is important, in 20 minutes.
Yes.
And knock down the door. That'll be exactly midnight.
Mm-hmm.
So the dad's incredulous.
He just kind of brushes her off.
Yeah, he kind of rolls his eyes. And he's like, yeah, baby, go to sleep. Where have you been, Daddy Cop?
He's not paying attention. 3
dead kids in their sleep.
He doesn't pay attention to what Nancy's doing. You really think he's going to pay attention to the dead kids in his city?
So he puts a deputy in charge of watching the house instead of, just being a dad.
Mm-hmm.
So now we get a booby trap montage with some Mission Impossible style music, kind of.
Yeah.
It's very spy versus spy. And to me, this just seems like a lot of work to do when you find out that she only has 10 minutes to do all this.
Yeah.
So in 10 minutes, she's filing down a hole in a light bulb. She's installing tripwires. She installs a lock on her bedroom door. She hangs a sledgehammer from the ceiling.
I don't think I could do all of that in 10 minutes.
I don't think so. She empties out a bunch of shotgun shells into the light bulb. I mean, that's a lot of work for 10 minutes.
Maybe she did some of it earlier.
Oh, like
and we're
this
just
is like a flashback?
Yeah.
So back at Glenn's house, Daddy Cop sees the blood as a detective wipes his feet outside the room.
All of the cops are grossed out.
And we find out the coroner's been puking in the bathroom ever since he saw it. So Daddy Cop's stressed. Nancy is across the street, tucking her drunk mom into bed. Mom is very sweaty, and it's probably because she's in her nightgown, in a robe, and under like 4 blankets, and hammered. These are all...
That equals puke.
That's a lot of sweat and a lot of vomit. Mom tells Nancy that she should have told her about Freddy earlier because she's a fighter and she faces things. She faces things. That's her gift.
That's her gift.
But sometimes you have to turn away, too. Mom grabs her liquor bottle and she kind of looks at it disgustedly and she's like, no, I don't want a nightcap. So Nancy sets her watch alarm now. She's back in her bedroom.
Does her watch talk to her?
It does.
Okay.
I wrote down, she sets her watch alarm with the fancy talking and everything. And then she prays the little kid prayer, the now I lay me down to sleep. Mm-hmm. And she tells Freddy, all right, Krueger, we'll play in your court.
She's a badass.
She's a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't look good here. She looks like she definitely needs to sleep. And now we get a little voiceover that reminds her in Glenn's voice to turn her back on Freddy. And that was right after her mom said to her, sometimes it's okay to turn away.
Mm-hmm. They're giving her good advice.
They are. So Nancy falls asleep, and she walks into the basement of her house. She goes to look for Freddy's glove, and it is no longer in the furnace. But we hear the screeching, and she's like, ooh, I should follow the screechy noises, because that's where Freddy is. So she walks through a secret door in her basement, like you often do in dreams. Mm-hmm. Like, no, there's just a door here.
And then it just goes to a deeper basement.
Yeah, and now she's in the boiler room. We start hearing Freddy cackle, like, haha, you came to me. And we hear, like, sounds from earlier in the movie, like Tina saying they dreamt about the same creep. Mm-hmm. Glenn sadly whining for his mom. Tina calling Nancy's name. So Nancy's trying to find Freddy in the bowels of this boiler room, and she's calling out to him. She's like, Freddy, come on, come get me.
Everything here seems either hot or wet.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't look like a pleasant shoot.
No.
Now she finds Tina's crucifix, and we can see Freddy kind of peering at her from around a pipe, like he was doing with Tina earlier. She can hear the screeching of his claws, and she looks, and Freddy's claw kind of pops up right in front of her face, but she doesn't see it because she was turning her head at the time. Mm-hmm. She finds Glenn's bloody headphones in front of the furnace, and we get the sheep bleating sound again.
I don't like it.
She's calling out to Freddy. She's checking her watch. She's getting stressed. Time's running short. And then Freddy pops up while she's distracted by her watch, and she takes off running.
It's a good plan.
She dives off a staircase, and then suddenly it turns into her front yard as she lands on a very obvious crash mat.
Mm-hmm. They put the trellis over it.
Yeah. She's searching around for Freddy. She's like, okay, come on, where the heck is he? Her watch is talking to her, like, final 10 seconds. Mm-hmm. You're going to wake up soon. And when I paused, right here to take my note down. It paused right at 6.9 seconds. Nice.
No.
So Freddy pops up from the trellis, and she tackles him right as the alarm clock wakes her up. And she's in her bed, but she pushes the rose trellis off of her. She brought out the rose trellis from her dream, too.
Now they have two.
Yes. Man, that'd be such a good way to get free stuff. I would pull so many PS5s home with me.
Yeah.
So we can hear the sirens outside. Those didn't wake her, but the alarm clock did.
Yeah.
Nancy realizes that she's awake and Freddy isn't there, and
her dad's not there either.
No, because he doesn't care. And then she gets kind of sad here, and she's like, oh, I am crazy. Mm-hmm. And then Freddy pops up from her bedside, and she goes into full attack mode. She kind of pushes him down on the bed, and it's trap time.
She's ready.
It is Home Alone going down in this house. Well, first off, she breaks a pot of coffee on his head. That's how she escapes the room. Mm-hmm. She ties a wire to the doorknob, and she calls for the deputy out the window, and he tells her, everything's going to be all right. It's all under control.
He's not phased.
Nope. And she screams, get my dad, you asshole. And then she breaks the window in the front door, and she's screaming. She's like, he's in here. Don't let him kill me, too. Reminder.
There's already 3 dead bodies.
Murdered.
And she's breaking windows.
Yeah. Teen is screaming, he is in here, don't let him kill me.
But it's not important.
So Freddy opens the bedroom door finally, and he gets a sledgehammer right to the chest, which makes him stumble, and he falls over the banister, and he lands right at Nancy's feet. So Nancy runs into the living room, and we see her jump over something. What could it be? It was the tripwire she set up earlier. Freddy threatens to split her in two, which, that's creepy.
I don't want that.
And you can see Freddy's in pain.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
she hurt him.
Yeah. So maybe he's mortal?
Maybe.
Freddy trips the tripwire and the lamp bomb explodes, and it hurts him. He's not happy about this. Nancy breaks another window and calls for help again, immediately after a loud explosion.
Mm-hmm. At this point, the deputy's like,
maybe I should go get the chief.
Maybe I should do something.
So now Nancy runs to the basement, and she runs down the steps, and she kind of goes around the furnace and around the back of the steps, and Freddy's chasing after her. We get another really creepy skin-crawly line from Freddy. He kind of scrapes his knives on the side of the furnace, and he goes, I'll kill you slow.
Ooh.
It's just...
Yeah.
He's very creeptastic. Nancy throws some sort of flammable liquid on Freddy and lights him on fire. She runs up the steps. Burning Freddy is trying to climb up the steps. This scene...
It's a pretty good scene.
Like...
That guy's on fire for a long time.
Yes.
But did you also notice that he sounds like Arnold Schwarzenegger here?
Yeah, he does. I think you just kind of ruined this scene for me.
I'm sorry, but he's like, oh, but it's like, it sounds like Arnold Schwarzenegger doing it.
Get to the chopper! So, Freddy's burning, he gets up to the top of the stairs, and Nancy uses the door to knock him back down the stairs. The stuntman is still on fire.
Yeah.
This is a long burn. Daddy Cop comes running, and he's calling for reinforcements. But Mom's security nutjob stuff makes them have to break down the door instead of opening the door. So we're wasting valuable time here. Mm-hmm. They break down the door, cops spill into the house, and they go downstairs to where the fire is. But then we see that there are fiery footsteps leading upstairs.
He's not down there anymore.
He's not. And then Nancy shouts, he's after Mother!
Don't ever call your mom Mother.
No, it's Mom. Or Ma. Ma.
Meh.
Ma. They go upstairs. They go upstairs, and Nancy opens the door to see Freddy full-on mounting her mom.
Still on fire.
Still on fire. She breaks a chair over his back, and he collapses, still burning, onto the very flammably drunk mother. And,
on a mattress.
On a mattress.
Those aren't flammable.
No, not at all. Daddy Cop douses the flames with a blanket, and they remove the blanket to show the burned skeleton of the mother and no Freddy. And the mom is being sucked into a flashy vortex.
Yeah.
And she extends her skeletal arm towards her family.
I'm not sure where she's going.
Yeah. And remember, we're supposed to believe that this is the real world now.
Yeah.
Like, we're out of the dream.
Mm-hmm.
There's lightning and thunder coming out of the bed, too.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, the bed's normal again. And Nancy goes and beats on it, and she looks at her dad, and she's like, now do you believe me? And her dad is perplexed.
He's confused.
Nancy dismisses her dad. She's like, okay, just go downstairs, play with your cops. I'll be there in a minute. And Nancy locks herself in the room. Or no, the door slams itself shut and locks itself. So now she's locked in the room. And Freddy comes up like a boner in a condom. He shoots up out of the bed, and the bedding is stretched all over him and looks very latexy.
Yeah.
And we can see his drippiness. Mm-hmm. And he cuts through the condom bedding. And I like that as he cuts through it, there's smoke coming off of him.
Yeah. Because he was on fire for a long time.
Yeah. It's a cool shot. Nancy doesn't even turn around to look at him. She's like, I know you're there. And he says, you think you was gonna get away from me? And Nancy has the power now. And she's gonna tell Freddy how it is. She tells him, this is just a dream. You're not alive. I want my mom and my friends back. And I'm taking back every bit of energy I ever gave you. Ugh, that was hard to get through.
Mm-hmm. Good thing you're not an actor.
Yeah. I was probably distracted by your paper shuffling.
Sorry.
She tells him, you're nothing. You're shit. And she turns her back on him again. And Freddy dives at her and disappears. And wow, what a beautiful special effect.
That was unnecessary.
Yeah. It looks like stars.
Mm-hmm.
Like Freddy turned into the galaxy.
Kinda, yeah.
And there's a whew, choo, choo, choo sound.
Oh, I didn't catch the noise.
Yeah, it's a lot. So Nancy opens the door to her mother's bedroom and steps outside into a bright but foggy day.
Mm-hmm.
She looks a little haggard, but not too bad. She looks like maybe she slept a little bit.
She looks much better.
Mom comes out and she's looking stellar.
She's super healthy.
Yeah. She's looking around and Nancy's like, it's bright. And Mom says, it's going to burn out soon. Otherwise it wouldn't be so bright.
There's lots of blue.
There's a lot of blue. She tells Nancy, you know what? I'm going to quit drinking. Well, with as much as she drinks, she might want to go to treatment. Her mom really awkwardly touches Nancy's face. She's just like finger tipping her face a lot.
I guess I didn't notice that.
It's awkward. So Glenn, Tina, and Rod pull up in the red caddy. Nancy goes and gets in the car, and she's like, yay, I'm going to go to school with my friends.
Everything's back to normal.
Maybe Glenn can get laid now. The caddy roof flips up, and they're all laughing. But you can see Glenn's like, yeah, I didn't do that. And we see from outside the car that the top looks like Freddy's sweater.
Ooh.
It didn't look like that earlier.
No, it was black earlier.
So the windows roll up, and Glenn is beating the steering wheel to get it to stop.
He's trying to do something.
Yeah. The windows are rolling up. Hit the steering wheel.
Yeah.
Nancy and the kids are screaming, but the mom's just like happily waving at them.
She's so calm.
Yeah, well, she might still be drunk.
Maybe.
The car pulls away on its own, and as it's pulling away, the camera pans over to the jump rope girls. And they're jumping rope. It's very hazy. Are we still in a dream?
Well, yeah.
And then Freddy's arm busts through the tiny window on the front door and pulls the mom inside, and it's a horrible.
No, he pulls her through the window, not just inside.
Yeah, through the teeny tiny little window on the door. Mm-hmm. And it's very obviously a blow-up doll. Mm-hmm. And it looks bad.
It doesn't look good.
And the camera cuts back to the jump rope girls as they sing the chant, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. And then the credits roll with a super 80s song. No, it's a nightmare. It's just a dream. No, it's a nightmare. I love that song.
Do you know all the lyrics?
Yeah,
Like, could you sing that whole song?
Probably. Okay, and that's the movie.
That's it.
That was a very weekend to a very good movie. Mm-hmm. So our body count is only 4.
Yeah.
Seems like it should have been more. I feel like they kind of overloaded you with the killing, but there really weren't that many kills.
I think it's because each one of them was so brutal.
Yeah. And they were kind of long scenes. It wasn't like a Friday the 13th where it's just slash and done.
Yeah. Like each one made an impression.
Yeah. So the body count is Tina. She was slashed across the chest and dragged across the ceiling and splatted.
Yeah.
Rod hanged with a penis bedsheet. Glenn, blood geyser bed.
Mm-hmm.
And Marge, burned and
life sucked from her into blue bed.
And pulled in through a window.
I don't know.
Okay, so reaction time. What do you think?
It's a fun movie. It's a good slasher movie. It's something innovative. Everyone has to sleep, so having a boogeyman that enters dreams means there's no escaping him. I thought the special effects were pretty great for the time. This Tina on the ceiling still holds up. I said that earlier because it's scary as fuck.
It is.
And
you feel it.
Yes. I like the feminist flair of Nancy pursuing Freddy, which she's not just a helpless victim. She's hunting him. She's
not a final girl. She's a survivor girl.
Yes. I said that the acting needed a great deal of work.
Yeah.
The score is great because it sounds innocent, but it is also menacing.
I agree with that.
Those are my thoughts.
My thoughts were still one of the best movies in the entire horror genre. And this kind of took the slasher genre out of the cookie cutter, like Friday the 13th, Sleepaway Camp, like the straight to video.
It was a little different.
Yeah. This wasn't Slumber Party Massacre. Score is great. Special effects were great for the budget and the time. And it introduces the greatest horror villain of all time. Like, you have so much to work with him.
Yeah.
And it gives a great playground for a series. Mm-hmm. Like, every writer and director can, like, step into this and just be like, you know what I want to do, because it's a dream.
Anything could happen in a dream.
You can do anything you want with it. And I think Bob Shea saw that and was like, money. Mm-hmm. The ending is trash.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrible. Mm-hmm. So when you watch the movie, you really have to forget the ending before you, like, did I like that? So, you want some production facts?
Sure.
Do you have any?
I have some.
Let's hear them.
It took 3 hours to get Robert Englund into into his Freddy makeup.
That's a long time.
The famous scraping noise of his, like, I almost said claws, his knives on things, was made by scratching a steak knife on the underside of a metal chair.
Ugh. Ew.
The words
blah, blah.
The words Elm Street are never spoken during the movie.
Oh, I never noticed that. Mm-hmm.
This one disturbs me. Heather Langenkamp asked to take home the prop of Freddy's mouth and tongue on the phone.
Oh.
Why?
Well, maybe that was her first kiss.
And then the basis of the film was inspired by Asian death syndrome. And that occurs when a relatively young person, usually an Asian male, dies unexpectedly while sleeping, and the victim has no known illness or factors that might cause cardiac arrest.
Killed by sleep.
Yeah.
Now you know why I hate going to bed.
You can die in your sleep.
Yes. So my production facts were Wes Craven got the idea for this movie from an article about sleep deaths among immigrants. Freddy Krueger was named after Wes Craven's childhood bully. The design for Freddy's sweater came from Craven reading something about red and green side by side being the hardest thing for your eyes to adjust to.
I just realized that people that are colorblind just think Freddy's wearing a shirt.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you're red-green colorblind, you're like...
He's either wearing like a red shirt or a green shirt, likely.
Yeah. And then, wow, that would suck.
They must not think Freddy's scary.
So initially Disney was interested in this movie, but they wanted it toned down to be PG-13.
Really?
And Wes Craven was like,
No.
No. Because when this movie was made...
It had an NC-17 to begin, didn't it?
It was officially rated an NC-17 by the Motion Picture Association of America, which, screw them. And Wes Craven cut the R rating off the front of a reel from another movie and spliced it onto his reel. And that was the master reel they submitted for copying. So this is an NC-17 movie that Wes Craven lied about being an R. So,
hey, he wanted his movie out there.
You know what? Good on him. This was New Line's first production. Before this, they were just a distributor.
Really?
And Bob Shea was like, no, it's time we make a movie.
Good choice.
It was filmed in 32 days. The school scenes were filmed in the same school as Pretty in Pink and Grease.
Oh.
There were 500 gallons of fake blood used.
That's a lot of gallons.
In the initial script, Freddy was a pedophile.
Mm-hmm.
But they took it out due to the McMartin preschool satanic panic case.
That was probably a wise choice.
They're like, oh, nobody's going to want to watch this movie.
No. But you still get that, like...
Well, especially when he does the come to Freddy and, like, flicks his tongue
there's
at
definitely
her.
still that feeling.
He has to rip Tina's shirt open before he kills her. The rotating room with the blood geyser almost killed Heather Langenkamp.
Really?
She was standing there watching the scene, and a whole bunch of fake blood poured over the side because they didn't account for how much fake blood was going to be running out of it. And I think it was when the blood hit the floor, which was actually the ceiling in the shot.
Yeah.
It started to kind of slosh around, and the rotating room started to turn.
Oh.
And so the blood poured out onto the floor, and it was hitting electrical stuff. And Heather Langenkamp didn't notice, but her feet
were in it.
Were almost in a puddle of blood, and guess who pulled her back? Robert Englund.
Oh.
Freddy saved Nancy.
That's so nice.
So goofs in the film. Again, I only put the goofs I notice.
Mm-hmm.
Rod has blood on him in the jail cell.
Really?
Yep. He's still got bloody hands.
Oh. Well, they just probably put him in there, like...
They're like, here's a shirt and some shoes.
Because it's not like he's in prison. He's just in jail. So they probably didn't, like, let him go shower.
Bloodborne pathogens.
No, there's nobody else in there. He's fine.
Tina's shirt gets ripped open when she's cut, and a few seconds later, her shirt is closed when she's being dragged across the ceiling. Which is good, because she's 15.
Yeah.
Also, when her shirt gets ripped open, you can very obviously see that it's like a wax bust that gets
really?
split. Like, it doesn't look great. The dummy that gets pulled through the window at the end, the window in the door, is very, very obviously a dummy.
Yeah.
That's all I noticed.
I think the amount of blood on the ceiling in Glenn's room changed. Like, when they first show him, it's completely covered, and then when his mom opens the door,
it's just kind of a trickle.
It's just a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like a lot less blood than what was there a second ago.
Because it was on its way to kill Nancy.
Apparently.
Okay, so final thoughts and ratings. Final thoughts.
It's a fun, scary movie. I'm not going to say it's like one of my favorites, but it did make an impression on me as a kid, because like I remember seeing that scene in the hallway where Tina's being dragged. Like, as I must have been at my grandma's house and my cousins were watching it or something, but it freaked me out.
Yeah.
And like, it still freaks me out.
I would describe a lot of scenes in this movie as evocative.
Yes. I like Freddy more in the sequels because I like a sassy Freddy.
Not a sexual predator Freddy.
But I like the overall feel of the movie. Yeah.
Like, I'm going to say it again. This is one of the best horror movies ever made. Some of the audio is a little out of whack.
Yeah.
Some of the shots are not set up the greatest. And some of the acting is subpar.
They tried.
But I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Ooh.
I wanted to go 10, but I realized there are problems with the movie.
I gave it a 6.
What? Okay, so aggregate score is 7.
I think that's what all of ours are going to be.
I can deal with it. Well, except Halloween. Halloween got a 10.
Did it?
Yeah. All right. In the movie Nightmare on Elm Street, who are you?
I didn't answer this because I got nobody.
I said that you are Nancy.
Really?
You're studious, you're inquisitive, you're headstrong. And if you were facing down a guy that you were like, well, I can't escape from him, you'd be like, screw you, I'm going to fight you. Here's a sledgehammer to the chest,
I'm going to booby trap you, bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
You're my little final girl.
I'm just not as whiny.
No. Who do you think I am?
I struggled with this movie.
You didn't think I was Rod?
No.
Musician type, drugs, brawling, leather jacket.
Yes, that totally describes you.
Full head of thick black hair.
Doing all the H.
Yeah. No, I am not Rod. I am the cop that Daddy Cop puts in charge of watching Nancy's house.
You're just kind of messing around.
I'm just trying to do right by my boss.
Yeah.
And, maybe I'll go get him. So, yeah. I think that's all we got.
That's all I got.
Do you want to tell the people where they can find us on the social media?
You can do it this time.
Okay. So if you would like to find us on social media, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/franchisefrightspod, on Instagram at franchisefrightspod, on Twitter or X at ffrightspod. Don't use that. And on Snapchat at ffrightspod. So thank you so much for listening in this week. Mm-hmm. You've had to put up with us 5 days in a row. And for anybody that made it this far, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And tune in next Thursday when we come to you on our regular schedule, which is Thursdays.
We're going to be entering the Conjuring world.
Yes, and unfortunately we have to start with The Nun.
Ooh.
But you know what? Maybe we'll find something to fall in love with on it.
Maybe.
So until then, remember they always come back. Good job.